What's up guys? Today I'm going to be setting up an enclosure for my blue Insularis. Now there's 4 things I'm keeping in mind, and that's going to be safety, both with handling the snake and the cage itself. Next is thermoregulating, and I'm going to be able to have him thermoregulate up and down, forward and back, and side to side. The third is I want it to be really easy for me to feed the snake safely. And then finally, I want this cage to look natural, and I want to do my best to emulate his environment. Now, a lot of these tips are going to be great for animals that live in similar habitats, but there's 2 things I think everyone should do before they set up an enclosure for a new animal. First of all is you need to do your research, which for the blue Insularis, I'm cutting the fat and I'm doing the research for you and putting out the information. However, a great tip is to go on to iNaturalist and look at where these animals are usually found out in the wild. I like looking at iNaturalist, but I don't usually post to it just because I've seen a lot of herping spots ruined because of it, but it's still a great resource. But the second tip before you set up your enclosure is take some time and take a walk outside. It's gonna get your creativity flowing, and you're gonna look around and think about how you should set up things naturally. After that, get your supplies and go ahead and get started on your enclosure. Now I've done a couple things already just to set the stage. First is I put this universal rock background in there, which is huge to make it look natural, and it's not porous, so you don't have to worry about bacteria if it gets wet. Next is I put Reptichip in there. Now you can do Reptichunk since it's a venomous snake and you don't have to worry about the smaller coconut fibers, but this is a fully arboreal animal, so I'm not worried about that. And Reptichip is great for humidity and it's coconut based, so you can get it wet and not have to worry about mold like you do with aspen. Another thing I've done to start the setup is I've went ahead and I've set up my lighting. And instead of typical reptile lights, I went ahead and I've used these halogen puck lights, which are great for diurnal animals, and I tend to favor them with my venomous. You want to make sure that you get the halogen ones because the LED ones obviously don't put off heat, but I put one on each side, and so you'll see why I've done that for thermoregulating here in just a minute. Alright, so what I've done here is I've set up a high area, a medium area, and a low area, so that way the snake can not only thermoregulate side to side, but also up and down as well. And since these puck lights are both very direct with their heat and both placed forward, the snake can also move forward and back across the branch to thermoregulate as well. So a little pro tip is I really like getting one of these gecko dish holders and turning it upside down, so that way when you put it in there, you're giving yourself a little platform to put your frozen thawed rodent on there if your snake eats frozen thawed. That way you don't have to worry about the snake having to move to find the food, and you give yourself a platform and not have to worry about the food falling to the ground. And of course, as I do everything, I check to make sure the doors open and close without disturbing anything on the inside. And nicely down here, we'll do the water dish. Another thing is, if the food ever does fall out of the snake's mouth, it lands in the water rather than in the substrate, keeps your food clean. So this is kind of the core of everything, but I'm gonna add some vines and foliage, help it come to life and help the snake be able to move from side to side. So here's a big vine. This can actually support the snake, and I'm gonna run it along the back. Reason for that is I don't want that much in the way for the snake to get wrapped up on when I try and hook him and pull him out for when I have to clean the enclosure, change the substrate, change the water, different things like that. So big vine across the back. And we'll get tiny vine. And a lot of this vine isn't so structurally sound, so while he can try and grab onto it, he's not gonna feel secure, so he's not gonna try and use this for his support. And if you wrap it, of course, it looks a lot more natural, and it keeps it from moving around and affecting other things. So now all that's left is add foliage to add some color and add some accents. So blue is a little bit of an outlier naturally, but the green white-lipped vipers and the golden ones, I'm going a lot for that color. And the broad leaves, if you notice, they're brighter on the underside. So naturally that helps them camouflage within these leaves, and their head very much resembles the shape of a leaf. So these broad leaves are very natural, and it's very adept to what their camouflage is in the wild. So it looks like there's a lot in here, but really there's not that much. And I can easily access the snake from throughout the whole thing without him being able to hide behind something. And a big mistake I see with people working with not that much foliage is they spread it out too much and it looks real patchy. But if you have it kind of connected, it all flows together really well. I also tend to work laterally with my plants because since you're looking at the enclosure head on most of the time, it's kind of cheating to where less is more. Now I got a couple finishing touches just to take it from good to great, and then we'll throw in the snake. Throw in the snake, throw. So the couple things I use is magnolia leaves and reindeer moss or any kind of moss, and that just changes up the uniformity of the ground, and adds a little bit of color. The same reason you use different colored bell peppers when making stir fry. It just looks better, so people think you're a better chef. So after the finishing touches and putting on the venomous sticker on the enclosure, it's finished. But if you're still interested in more builds, I do have this caiman enclosure build, and then I also have a reptile supply wall build, which you can both watch. Other than that, make sure you like and subscribe, but thanks so much for watching.